Why do some men become utterly fixated on women who barely acknowledge their existence, while completely overlooking those who go out of their way to please them? Have you ever observed this phenomenon? Have you ever pondered why the man you desire seems perpetually drawn to the one who treats him with indifference? The answer might astonish you. There exists a profound psychological mechanism within the male psyche that the vast majority of women are entirely unaware of. It's a secret that Carl Jung, the revolutionary Swiss psychologist, unearthed over a century ago and which remains largely obscured to this day. Jung dedicated decades to the meticulous study of the male psyche. He unveiled something rather disquieting. There is a facet of the male unconscious which he termed the anima that dictates which women a man will develop an all-consuming emotional obsession for. And here lies the brutal truth that nobody bothers to tell you. You've been indoctrinated with precisely the inverse of what actually functions. Everything you've been advised about winning a man over being sweet, perpetually available, overtly displaying interest, making sacrifices for him, embodying the perfect woman, all of it is actively sabotaging your prospects of forging a deep, addictive emotional connection. Psychological science has definitively proven that men develop emotional dependence not on women who pursue them, but on those who activate something highly specific within their unconscious. Something Jung referred to as the anima projection. While you're striving to be everything to him, there exists a woman somewhere who, without even consciously trying, has him thinking about her 24 hours a day. She occupies his every thought. He checks his phone in anticipation of a message from her. He cancels other engagements in the hope of seeing her. And she isn't even expending nearly as much effort as you are. In fact, it's precisely the opposite. In the ensuing minutes, I will meticulously reveal the exact nature of the emotional exposure that engenders this addictive effect in men. I will demonstrate how certain women operating unconsciously trigger what Jung identified as the anima complex, compelling men to develop an almost obsessive emotional need for them. This is not manipulation. This is pure psychology. Jung discovered that when a woman reflects back to a man specific aspects of his own unconscious feminine psyche, something extraordinary transpires. The male brain interprets this as, she is unique, she completes me, I need her. And here is the revelation that will fundamentally alter your perspective. This is not an innate quality one either possesses or lacks. It is, in fact, a skill. This is something you can consciously learn and apply. But first, you need to stop doing everything wrong. You need to understand that every time you exhibit emotional neediness, every time you make yourself overly available, every time you try to prove your worth, you are, quite literally, repelling the possibility of activating that psychological obsession in him. Why? Because you're doing precisely the opposite of what his anima isn't. The masculine anima, according to Jung, possesses very specific characteristics. It is mysterious. It is emotionally independent. It has its own rich inner life. It doesn't require external validation to feel whole. When you act needy or desperate for attention, you automatically disqualify yourself as a potential anima carrier. For him, his masculine unconscious simply cannot project anything onto you. But when you master what Jung termed controlled emotional exposure, when you reveal deep aspects of who you truly are, yet maintain your emotional autonomy, something extraordinary transpires in his mind. He begins to perceive you as different from all the rest. In the next few minutes, I'm going to teach you precisely how to do this. How to leverage Carl Jung's groundbreaking discoveries to forge an emotional attraction so potent that he literally won't be able to get you out of his head. But a word of caution, this goes against everything you've been taught about relationships. It will challenge every piece of advice you've ever received from friends, magazines, or even therapists. The question is, are you ready to uncover the truth about what truly makes a man become emotionally addicted to a woman? Because once you learn this, there's no turning back. You will never again have to chase a man. You will never again question if he's interested. You will never again feel disposable. You will become unforgettable. So tell me, are you prepared to discover the secret that took Carl Jung decades to unravel? Now, if you've made it this far, it signifies that something within you has recognized the veracity of what I've just unveiled. You felt that inner click when I spoke of the anima and how you can activate this psychological fixation in men, didn't you? But here's something Jung discovered that very few people are privy to. The mere act of declaring your intention to change activates something potent within your subconscious. He termed this psychic commitment. Therefore, I want you to do something very specific right now. In the comments below, I want you to write a single word: magnetic. It may seem simple, but this is no mere ordinary comment. It is a psychological ritual that Jung employed with his patients over a century ago. When you write magnetic, you are accomplishing three things simultaneously. Firstly, you are sending a direct dispatch to your own subconscious, signaling your readiness to embody this mysterious and magnetic feminine energy that men find utterly irresistible. Secondly, you are aligning yourself with a clandestine sisterhood of women who have unearthed these Jungian principles and are consciously deploying them in their relationships. You are no longer ordinary women clamoring for scraps of male attention. You are awakened individuals leveraging profound psychological insights. Thirdly, you are conditioning your subconscious mind to fully absorb the techniques I will impart in subsequent videos. Jung demonstrated that when we articulate our intentions, our capacity for learning multiplies exponentially. Look, I've already imparted this wisdom to thousands of women, and I can assure you of one thing: those who write magnetic in the comments are precisely the ones who later return, regaling me with tales of men utterly captivated by them. Coincidence? Jung would posit that coincidence is an illusion when the unconscious is involved. So, if you genuinely wish to catalyze this magnetism in your life, if you aspire to cease chasing and commence magnetizing, if you are weary of being merely another one in men's lives, write magnetic in the comments now. And pay heed. Once you do this, you will begin to observe subtle yet formidable shifts in how men respond to your presence. Some of you will experience this as early as today, but there is a stipulation: only write it if you are truly committed to this metamorphosis. Because once you consciously ignite your feminine magnetism, there is no turning back. You will become an entirely different woman, a woman that men can't forget. So, are you ready? Type magnetic now and join the ranks of women who have unlocked the secret Carl Jung kept hidden for decades. Your journey sisters await you in the comments. Type magnetic now and activate your transformation. I am about to reveal something that will fundamentally alter your perception of male behavior forever. Have you ever noticed how, when a man is genuinely interested in a woman, he behaves in a seemingly contradictory manner? He oscillates between moments of intense focus and periods of inexplicable withdrawal. Most women interpret this as disinterest, a game, or immaturity. They are left bewildered. If he likes me, why does he disappear? Why doesn't he respond immediately? Why is he so affectionate at times and so cold at others? Here's the astonishing truth: this has absolutely nothing to do with you. And it has everything to do with a silent war waged within his own mind. Carl Jung discovered that every man harbors what he termed psychic complexes, unconscious forces that dictate his behavior, even when he is utterly unaware of what is transpiring. And the most potent complex of all, the anima. Allow me to elucidate this in a way that will enable you to comprehend every man in your life from an entirely novel perspective. The anima is the unconscious feminine aspect of the male psyche. It's as though every man possesses an inner woman he has never consciously encountered, yet who dictates the women he finds himself almost obsessively drawn to. Herein lies what he truly desires, but will never articulate. He doesn't merely seek a girlfriend or wife. He yearns to find the woman who will awaken this dormant feminine facet within him. He seeks to feel whole through a woman. And here lies the crux of the issue: his anima possesses very specific characteristics that society has conditioned you to suppress. Do you ever wonder why that difficult woman consistently drives men wild over her, while you, the good girl, are relegated to the friend zone? Why does he act strangely when, in reality, he is intensely attracted to you? Because when a man encounters a woman who activates his anima, he experiences psychological turmoil. The anima embodies everything he has been taught to repress: profound emotions, vulnerability, intuition, mystery. So, what does he do? He attempts to regain control by creating distance. He tests you. He acts inconsistently because he is literally grappling with an unconscious force pulling him towards something he doesn't fully comprehend. And here lies the fatal error that 95% of women make. When they notice this inconsistency, they try to reassure him. They become more predictable, more available, more accommodating. They think, if I show him I'm reliable and won't hurt him, he'll open up. A complete mistake. Do you know what you're doing when you act like this? You're extinguishing the projection of his anima onto you. You're becoming too safe, too predictable, too commonplace. The masculine anima isn't safe. It's mysterious. It possesses emotional depth. It doesn't require his approval to exist. It has its own rich and complex inner life. When you transform into the good girl who is perpetually available, you automatically cease to embody his anima. And then what? He loses interest, even without grasping the reason. But here's the secret that will revolutionize everything. You can consciously activate the projection of his anima onto you. You can do this intentionally. And when you do, something magical transpires within the male psyche. Jung referred to this as a complex constellation. It's when all of his unconscious contents pertaining to the feminine are simultaneously activated. The result? He develops an emotional need for you that he cannot even articulate. He begins to think, she's different. She understands me in a way no one else does. She makes me feel something I've never felt before. What's truly occurring? You're reflecting back to him aspects of his own psyche that he has never dared to explore. You become the mirror to his own emotional profundity. And this engenders such an intense psychological dependence that he literally cannot forget you. Now that you understand that every man carries an unconscious inner woman, I need to reveal something even more specific and powerful that will completely alter your approach to man. Jung discovered that there isn't just one anima. There are 4 distinct types of masculine anima projection. And here's what will astound you. Each man is dominated by one specific type. This means that what works with one type of man can be utterly ineffective with another. Do you know why you sometimes forge an intense connection with certain men, while with others, you seem invisible? It's because you were activating the wrong anima type. It's akin to attempting to pick a lock with the wrong key. No matter how much you force it, it simply won't yield. Allow me to unveil the 4 types, and you'll immediately begin to recognize which type dominates each man in your life. The first type Jung termed the primitive Eve. This is the man unconsciously drawn to the most instinctive and natural femininity. He desires the woman who isn't afraid to express her emotions, who is spontaneous, who is connected to her body and her sensuality. What he truly yearns for, though he'll never articulate it, is a woman who makes him feel masculine through polarity. He wishes to protect, to provide, to feel needed. Why does he exhibit possessiveness when he actually harbors profound love for you? Because the Eve anima awakens primal protective instincts within him. He fears losing you because you represent something vital to his psychological completeness. The error most women make with this type is attempting to be too independent or too rational. They conceal their feminine vulnerability, mistakenly believing it to be weakness, when in reality, it is precisely what he is unconsciously seeking. The second type is the romantic Helen. This man is governed by romantic fantasies. He seeks the idealized woman, the muse, the one who inspires him to become a better version of himself. What he truly desires, though he will never admit it, is someone who makes him feel special, unique, as if he were the hero in an epic love story. Have you ever observed how some men behave like infatuated adolescents, despite being mature adults? This occurs because the Helen anima activates the part of him that still believes in fairy tales and grand passions. He regresses to a more youthful and idealistic state. The fatal error women make with this archetype is attempting to be overly practical or excessively realistic. They dismantle his romantic fantasy with pronouncements about credit card bills or mundane daily struggles, thereby annihilating precisely what initially drew him to them. The third type Jung identified is the spiritual Virgin Mary. This man seeks a more profound, transcendent connection. He desires a wise woman, one possessing emotional and spiritual depth who can elevate him to a higher consciousness. What he truly yearns for, though he will never articulate it, is an intellectual and emotional equal, a confidant with whom he can engage in profound dialogues concerning life, purpose, and meaning. Why does he exhibit such intense fervor only to retreat when a genuine spiritual resonance is felt? Because the Virgin Mary anima intimidates him. She represents a stratum of emotional intimacy he is uncertain he is prepared to confront. The mistake women make with this type is striving to appear superficial or low maintenance. They mask their depth, erroneously believing this will ward him off, when in reality, it is their very profundity he desperately seeks. The fourth and most evolved archetype is the wise Sophia. This is the psychologically most developed man. He seeks a woman who is his complete counterpart physically, emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. He desires someone who will challenge him and foster his growth. What he truly desires, though he will never reveal it, is a woman who is utterly authentic, uninhibited in displaying all facets of her personality, including her shadows and contradictions. Why does he appear aloof or analytical when he actually harbors a deep and respectful attraction? Because the Sophia Anima compels him to scrutinize everything. He needs to be assured of your reality before fully surrendering. The misstep women make with this archetype is attempting to impress him by projecting an aura of perfection. They conceal their imperfections and complexities when it is precisely their complete humanity he is seeking. Now, here is the revelation that will fundamentally alter your perspective. The majority of women endeavor to embody all anima types simultaneously. Even more detrimentally, they attempt to embody the anima they believe should be effective, rather than the one that genuinely ignites a specific man. The consequence is the creation of discord within the male psyche, the transmission of conflicting signals, and ultimately, the failure to activate any anima projection. But when you correctly identify which type of anima predominates in a specific man and consciously align yourself with that energy, something extraordinary occurs. It's as if you've found the exact frequency that resonates with his unconscious. He begins to feel that you are the one who truly understands him. Here's the most fascinating part. Jung discovered that you don't need to pretend to be a particular anima type. Every authentic woman has aspects of all four types within her. The secret lies in knowing which aspect to emphasize with each man. It's like having 4 different musical instruments. You don't play them all at once. You choose the right instrument for the right music. In the next section, I will teach you precisely how to identify which anima type dominates any man you encounter. And more importantly, how to consciously activate this projection in a way that is entirely authentic to you. Because here's the ultimate truth. When you master this, you will never have to chase a man again. They will feel a magnetic pull towards you that they won't even be able to explain. Are you ready to discover your natural anima superpower? I am now going to impart knowledge that will strike you as almost telepathic. You will gain the ability to read the male psyche in a way that will astonish you with its accuracy. Jung developed specific techniques for identifying the dominant anima type in a man, and I will adapt these techniques for everyday situations. After all, knowing that 4 types exist is utterly useless if you cannot discern which is which in real life. Wouldn't you agree? The first crucial understanding is that a man's anima manifests through 3 primary channels: how he speaks of women, how he reacts to various forms of femininity, and his unconscious fantasies. And here lies the secret. He will provide all this information without even realizing it. Let us commence with the most obvious: how he speaks of women from his past. When a man dominated by the primitive Eve speaks of ex-girlfriends or women who left a significant impression, he invariably mentions physical attributes first. She was beautiful. She had an incredible figure. She was very sensual. He cherishes spontaneity and consistently laments women who were too complicated or overthinkers. If you inquire about the type of woman who attracts him, he will speak of naturalness, simplicity, and overt femininity. But pay heed to this. Why does he adopt a more protective stance towards you when you exhibit vulnerability, yet withdraws when you attempt to resolve everything independently? Because his Eva anima is wired to respond to what he perceives as a need for protection. When you present yourself as excessively independent, you completely disengage this unconscious mechanism of his. Conversely, the man dominated by the romantic Helen speaks of women in an entirely different manner. He recounts narratives. She inspired me. We shared a special connection. It felt as though we were soulmates. He romanticizes even relationships that ended poorly. If you're attentive, he invariably possesses a past great love story that he continues to idealize. What he truly desires, though he will never explicitly articulate it, is to feel like the protagonist in a romantic film. Why does he sometimes exhibit such intense behavior initially, only to then cool off? because the reality of the relationship begins to contend with his romantic fantasy. When you become too real discussing practical matters, being predictable, you shatter the enchantment that sustains his Helena Anima. The man embodying the spiritual Virgin Mary follows a completely distinct pattern. When he speaks of women, he mentions profound conversations, emotional connections, personal growth. She made me think. We had amazing conversations. She helped me know myself better. He values emotional intelligence above all else. Here's something fascinating Jung discovered. This type of man has often had a complex relationship with his mother, either overly close or distant. Why does he act so cerebral when he actually feels deep emotional attraction towards you? Because the Virgin Mary Anima compels him to process feelings through intellect first. He needs to understand what he's feeling before allowing himself to feel it. The wise Sophia man is the most difficult to identify because he is the most self-aware of his own patterns. When he speaks about past relationships, he talks about mutual growth, challenges, personal evolution. She made me a better person. We grew together. She challenged me in important ways. He doesn't idealize anyone. He sees people as complex human beings. But here's the trick to spotting him quickly. Ask about his most significant relationships and observe if he can speak about ex-partners in a balanced way, acknowledging both qualities and flaws without bitterness or excessive idealization. The wise Sophia man can do this because his anima is more integrated into his consciousness. Now, there's a foolproof technique Jung used that you can apply in any conversation. Observe which type of emotional story resonates most with him. If you recount a time you felt vulnerable and needed help, how does he react? The primal Eve immediately wants to fix or protect. The romantic Helen turns it into a dramatic tale of special connection. The Virgin Mary wants to deeply understand your feelings. The wise Sophia acknowledges your humanity without needing to mend anything. But here's what most women miss. A man's anima also reveals itself through what he criticizes in other women. Primal Eve criticizes women who are too independent or overthinkers. Romantic Helen criticizes women who are unimaginative or too practical. Virgin Mary criticizes women who are superficial or lack depth. Wise Sophia criticizes women who are inauthentic or don't know themselves. Do you see the pattern? Each type criticizes the exact opposite of what their anima seeks. And here's the most valuable information. When you know which type dominates a man, you know exactly which aspects of his personality to emphasize and which to avoid. Why is this so powerful? Because when you align with his anima, you're not just being attractive, you're becoming psychologically indispensable for his completeness. He begins to feel that something is missing when you're not around. Now we arrive at the most crucial part of all that Jung discovered about relationships. How do you consciously activate a man's anima without becoming a counterfeit version of yourself? How do you cultivate that profound psychological attraction while preserving your own integrity? The answer will surprise you. Jung discovered that the real power lies not in being his anima, but in awakening his anima through your specific authenticity. It's a subtle, yet game-changing difference. Let me illustrate with an example that will illuminate everything for you. Imagine you've identified that a man is dominated by the primal Eve. Most women begin to perform femininity in an exaggerated manner, dressing more seductively, acting more submissively, feigning more fragility than they genuinely feel. The result? He senses the falsity. The male psyche possesses an internal authenticity detector that is virtually infallible. But here's the secret that will revolutionize your relationships. Instead of pretending to be more feminine, you reveal the genuinely feminine aspects already inherent within you. Every woman possesses moments of true vulnerability, natural spontaneity, and authentic sensuality. The trick is knowing when and how to showcase these facets. I'll give you a practical example. You're conversing with a primal Eve man, and he's discussing a predicament at work. Instead of offering rational advice as you might naturally do, you allow your feminine intuition to surface. Wow, that must be incredibly frustrating for you. How are you navigating that? You are displaying emotional empathy rather than a logical solution. This activates his Eva anima because you are offering something that complements his more straightforward masculine nature. What he truly desires, though he may never articulate it, is to feel like the strong man in the relationship without you needing to feign weakness. The difference lies in your acknowledging and valuing his masculine strength while remaining at ease with your own innate femininity. Now, with the romantic Helen man, the dynamic shifts entirely. He doesn't want you to be more feminine, he wants you to be more magical. And here's the revelation: you already possess natural magic. Every woman does. It resides in your dreams, your hopes, the way you perceive possibilities where others see obstacles. Why does he act as if you were destined to meet when, in reality, you've only just encountered each other? Because the Helena Anima transforms casual encounters into magical coincidences. When you authentically feed this narrative, sharing your own dreams, speaking of synchronicities, acknowledging the moment's specialness, you activate something profound within him. The technique here is not to invent romance, but to recognize and cherish the genuinely romantic elements that already exist. When he shares a story about something that happened to him, instead of responding practically, you respond to the emotional significance. How incredible how the universe conspires sometimes. You are validating his natural inclination to find special meaning in experiences. With the spiritual Virgin Mary man, you need an entirely different approach. He craves genuine emotional depth, not a performance of depth. And here's what will shock you. He can detect emotional fakery with almost psychic accuracy. What he truly desires, but will never tell you directly, is to find someone brave enough to be truly vulnerable. Not performative vulnerability, but real emotional honesty about who you are, including your contradictions and complexities. Why does he sometimes seem to be testing you emotionally when in reality he feels a deep connection? Because his Virgin Mary Anima needs assurance that you are genuine before he can allow himself to be vulnerable too. When you respond to his tests with real emotional honesty, admitting your own uncertainties, fears, hopes, you activate something sacred within him. The technique here is gradual emotional transparency. You share genuine layers of who you are, not all at once, but progressively. You know, what you said made me think about. And then you share something real about your inner life. With the wise Sophia man, the approach is even more refined. He desires a complete partner, someone who is simultaneously strong and vulnerable, wise and curious, independent and connected. He doesn't want you to be perfect. He wants you to be real in all your complexity. Here's the fascinating paradox. Why does he seem more drawn to you when you show your imperfections than when you try to impress him? Because the Sophia Anima represents the totality of the feminine human experience. When you hide parts of yourself, you become incomplete in his unconscious eyes. The most potent technique for this type is what Jung termed integral authenticity. You reveal every facet of your being, your strengths and your uncertainties, your wisdom and your inquisitiveness, your independence and your capacity for connection. You don't strive for consistency. You embody humanity. But here lies the ultimate secret that transmutes this entire framework from mere theory into genuine power. Jung ascertained that when a woman authentically activates a man's anima, she is not solely engineering attraction, she is fostering psychological evolution for both individuals. You become a mirror, enabling him to perceive and assimilate hitherto unconscious aspects of his own psyche. And he, in turn, becomes a catalyst for you to express authentic dimensions of your femininity that you may have previously suppressed. I shall now unveil the most advanced echelon of Jung's discoveries concerning profound relationships, a concept known to remarkably few, yet capable of fundamentally revolutionizing not only your romantic entanglements but also your very self-perception. Jung ascertained that when two individuals consciously reciprocally activate their latent unconscious energies, an extraordinary phenomenon ensues. They forge what he termed a creative tension field, a psychological crucible wherein each becomes a catalyst for the other's evolution. This transcends mere attraction or even love. It pertains to becoming co-conspirators in the process of individuation, the ultimate actualization of the human personality. However, here lies the startling revelation. The majority of relationships founder precisely because individuals endeavor to expunge all tension rather than harness it constructively. They erroneously equate a salubrious relationship with an absence of conflict, a seamless, effortless flow. Jung discerned this to be a perilous delusion. The verity is that psychological tension serves as the very engine of growth. By eradicating all tension, you extinguish the potential for transformation, rendering the relationship moribund, predictable, and inert. Conversely, when you master the art of consciously cultivating and sustaining creative tension, a magical metamorphosis occurs. Both individuals blossom into more complete versions of themselves, profoundly shaped by each other's presence. Allow me to elucidate its practical application. Recall Jung's archetypes of the anima. When you deliberately activate a man's anima, you are not merely catering to his superficial desires. You are compelling him to confront and assimilate unconscious facets of his own psyche. For instance, when you authentically evoke his primitive Eve archetype, you are not simply embodying femininity. You are challenging him to cultivate his own conscious masculinity. He is impelled to become more protective, more decisive, more present. Your genuine femininity thus becomes a mirror, reflecting the man he has the potential to become. What he truly craves, yet can never consciously articulate, is for you to catalyze his growth through your own inherent completeness. He yearns for your presence to challenge him toward a more realized self. And here is the revolutionary aspect. This dynamic operates reciprocally. When she responds to her authentic femininity by developing her conscious masculinity, it creates an energetic field that allows her to explore and deepen aspects of her own femininity. Jung referred to this as the transcendent function, when apparent opposites combine to create something greater than the sum of its parts. But how do you engineer this in real life? How do you maintain this creative tension without it devolving into destructive conflict? The first key is understanding that you should never try to complete a man. This kills creative tension instantly. Instead, you must inspire him to complete himself. There is a subtle yet crucial difference between these two things. When you try to complete him, you take responsibility for his psychological growth. You become codependent. You lose your own centrality. And ironically, you become less attractive to him because there is no longer any tension. You've already given everything. But when you inspire him to complete himself, you maintain your own wholeness while creating a magnetic field that pulls him toward growth. You become a catalyst, not a crutch. Why do some relationships foster this transformative dynamic while others stagnate? Because in transformative relationships, both individuals maintain what Jung termed individuality within the union. They connect deeply without merging. They influence each other without losing their own identities. Here's a practical technique that will change everything for you. Whenever you feel the urge to fix something for him, stop and ask, how can I inspire him to fix it himself? Whenever you feel the urge to give advice, stop and ask, how can I create a space where he discovers his own answers? Jung discovered that when a woman can do this, maintain her own completeness while creating space for his growth, she becomes literally irresistible. Not just physically or emotionally, but psychologically. She becomes a source of life and energy for him. And here's the final secret. This works because you are activating the deepest drive in every human being, the drive to become whole, to realize their full potential. You are becoming a partner in the most important project of his life, becoming who he truly is. But remember, this only truly functions when you are simultaneously committed to your own growth. You cannot inspire someone towards self-actualization if you yourself are not in a process of becoming whole. Authenticity cannot be feigned at the unconscious level. When you master this, when you become a woman who inspires growth by maintaining your own integrity, you discover something astonishing. You will never again feel beholden to any particular relationship. You become magnetic not because you need someone, but because you're someone. And paradoxically, this is precisely what cultivates the kind of profound, enduring attraction every woman desires. Men become addicted not to women who need them, but to women who inspire them to become the best versions of themselves. Jung spent his entire life studying this, and he discovered that this is the bedrock of the most profound and transformative relationships possible. Relationships where both individuals not only love each other but elevate one another to levels of consciousness and wholeness they would never achieve alone. Now you hold the keys. You understand deep masculine psychology. You know how to consciously identify and activate any man's anima. And more importantly, you know how to do this in a way that transforms not only his life, but your own life as well. The ultimate question is, are you ready to become the kind of woman who doesn't just attract men, but who transforms them? Are you ready to cultivate relationships that are true partnerships of growth and evolution? Because when you do this, you don't just find love, you become a force of transformation in the world.